Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name's Luke Lennon. I'm the information manager for the global supply chain for DNP. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks very much, Fred, for giving me the chance to stand up and share my experiences of the Every Angle upgrade and rehosting project that we've recently run in DSM. So, who are DSM? What's our mission? Who knows DSM in the room other than the DSM people, of course? Right, okay. So it's a well-known company in Holland. Our mission is to create brighter lives for people today and generations to come in the future. And we do that by combining our experiences in health and nutrition and materials. I'm very active in the nutrition cluster, and we're a leading supplier of ingredients, mostly vitamins, minerals, so vitamins A, B, C, D, E, pretty much all the way through the alphabet. And you see DSM everywhere, every day, in your breakfast, in the bacon that you ate, in the eggs, in the salmon that you had. We're a leader in the nutritional ingredients there. We're also very active in personal care. We make the vitamins and sun filters that go into products that L'Oreal and people like that produce. At a glance, DSM's results. DSM sells around 10 billion euros worth of sales. DSM Nutritional Products, who I work for, is roughly contributing around 6 billion euros of that. Our organisation is basically split across the supply chain. We've got about 120 locations which are active, manufacturing, distributing and mixing different ingredients and providing those to the end customers, either as straight products or as a pre-mixed nutritional personally composed product for our customers like Kellogg's and Nestle, etc., to go straight into their food manufacturing processes. So a little bit about Every Angle. We use Every Angle for the manufacturing and distribution processes. DSM is very heavy in innovation and marketing, and when we come to executing our production and our distribution and our sales, that's what we use. We use Every Angle to look at the operational reporting. We're a heavy SAP user. We use Business Warehouse as well. And I'll explain a little bit about why we use Every Angle and how it got there. We'll talk about the context of the project and why we use Every Angle. That's our ERP landscape. We've actually got 6 ERP systems, and that's why we had quite a challenge in upgrading. I'll talk about the business case. How did I get the money to do this project, and what are the recommendations for everybody else in the room if you really want to do it? How long will it take you? The typical activities and some advice if I dare to offer it for your success, and then I'll give a little demonstration of one of our dashboards that we've created. So around 2011, 2012, we first introduced Every Angle. Actually, it was born through, it's an interesting circle that closed today. Sean Cully was working at BAE Systems. Colleague of his, Riaz Handra, who is also around today, came and worked for me inside DSM Nutritional Products. I was talking about the kind of problems that we had, and he said, "Do you know about Every Angle?" I said, "No." He said, "Let's have a little look at it." And here we are, meeting up, Sean, myself, Riaz, 7 years later. We had a gap, very similar to probably most of you who use the product, between Business Warehouse and ERP. It's devilishly difficult to get the data out of the ERP systems, and it's even more difficult to try and get reports created in Business Warehouse quickly and at the right level of granularity with low cost. We also had the pressure of Sarbanes-Oxley's. We had to take away the access of SE16 to people and SQVI. We were really closing down there. We also were running a lot of acquisitions, and companies that we were acquiring were expecting to have a certain level of detailed analysis that really our Business Warehouse and ERP systems could not deliver to us, and they had quite high expectations. We were having process improvement projects. The days of having vitamins being really high priced and high profit margins were starting to go away. We had to look more closely at our processes and make sure they were performing. And the challenge to get the information out to analyze those processes was entirely missing or very difficult to gather. And those were the main reasons why we first introduced every angle into Latin America in 2011, 2012. Within the supply chain, it was an initiative from us, driven by us. And after we had seen the success in one of our regions, we then went and rolled it out across the world so we could get global transparency of our processes. So, probably most IT people's biggest nightmare or most wonderful dream. We have 6 ERP systems that we use to run transactions and record our business across the whole of the world. So that's 6 billion worth of business. Most of the manufacturing is done within the European space. And then we have an enterprise model where we are buying from our tolling manufacturers, selling the goods into company through the holding company in Switzerland, and then selling to the end customer through the model, which is the local reseller. So we have a complex supply chain. We have to deal with global trade challenges, and we've got a very large amount of distribution and complexity in our network, which does not help when you've got 6 ERP systems. So we ended up with 6 every angle systems for all of those different users. So why should you upgrade your every angle system? We basically broke this down into 2 phases, a preparation phase for the project and an execution phase. And we said, what do we need to do inside the preparation phase? And we came up with a rationale. We stimulated interest inside the business. We got every angle down to the sites. We got them to the key stakeholders to talk about what this new product looked like and what could it do, which is better than what it does now. And there were a combination of IT deficiencies and business drivers that got us over the line with regard to getting the money and getting the buy-in. The version we've been running has been 6 years old. We're getting close to it really being a burning platform. It's very clunky, no disrespect to the old system, but it's very clunky to use. It takes us 4 to 5 days to get the client onto a machine. Getting the user access, you have to get a new user ID, you have to get a separate password. These things are gone in the new version, okay? And our new policy for IT is making sure that every application is internet-centric and every angle ticked those boxes. We didn't have any global dashboarding. We're unable to compare and benchmark across the different regions how our plants and our supply chains are performing. We didn't have any plant maintenance functionality, or it was really rudimentary and we needed to uplift that. Also, a key driver was our hosting costs. We were looking at our hosting partner and seeing how much he was charging us now and how much he would potentially charge us in the future. And we saw that that was too high and we really needed to change supplier. And we had a challenge of the sleeping servers. We've got people who are responsible for global reporting and metrics in Europe who had to wait until the afternoon until the US and LATAM servers woke up. So they could only do their work in the afternoon. And that really didn't help us with effective analysis and speedy ad hoc reporting. Some of the business drivers were that we're introducing IBP as a process with Oliver White, Integrated Business Planning. It's the progression from sales and operation planning. And it meant that we have to get sharper at delivering what we said we were going to deliver from a supply chain point of view. And that really drives you to get sharp on your processes and your master data to make sure that you've got a reliable supply plan that can be used then as a basis for ATP. Global comparisons were becoming more and more important. We wanted more people to be trained at the sites. We didn't want to invest our time in the old version. We wanted to do it in the new version. So a combination of drivers. There was no real silver bullet, although I must say that the dashboarding functionality helped a lot to really create that appetite and interest from higher level management. I think without that dashboard part, we probably would have been waiting until this was a burning platform. So what kind of activities do we have in the preparation phase? actually, let's go on a step and work our way backwards. When you execute the project, these are the things you have to do, okay? You have to set up the hardware. You have to install the application. Every Angle does that for you. Deal with the data transfer from your SAP server to your Every Angle server. You have to do the functional unit testing. Every Angle does that for you. Make sure basically that it's working, and all the developments that you've done in the old version, which are bespoke pieces of functionality, get taken across properly and are working properly. You'll have to do your own user acceptance testing, make sure that your policies and processes are followed, and you can sign off. You say, yeah, we take that off you Every Angle, we believe it works. You're going to need to train your people. You're going to need to coach them. And then you've done the project. And the execution phase, from our point of view, took around 4 or 5 weeks, okay? So getting to that point where you're now good to go with setting up the hardware is where the long lead time is. This part is essentially smooth and easy if you've got everything in place, and we'll talk about those things now. Someone's got to drive this. Someone's got to be behind this, and you need support. So set up your project structure. Who's the owner of this project? Who's going to own this application? And who wants it to happen? Make sure you've got your stakeholder clear, and make sure you've got the people who can help you to actually move this forward. Agree the scope and the modules. We decided we'd take all of our supply chain elements. We wouldn't take finance, for example. We wouldn't take GRC. These are complications we didn't want. We wanted essentially a like-for-like introduction. Make a rough schedule for your execution, because you're going to need one to figure out how much it's going to cost so you can get the project approved. Okay, so rough out the schedule. Clarify the sizing and hardware specification. We decided we wanted to deal with that sleeping systems gap, and that meant it was a little bit more cost to be borne by the infrastructure guys. Get that project brief written and approved by the key stakeholders. The authorization concept was a challenge. We're very sensitive about information security in DSM, and I'm sure that all of you are exactly the same. And we had to tighten up on who could approve access to what system and what information to view. Okay, and that actually is quite a complication to go through. You have to have a very long list of people who've bought in and have said, okay, I'll approve that. I take on that responsibility. Create an appetite and awareness across the whole of the business about this and what it can do for you. Get the buy-in, because you will be competing with other projects. This is not just about how good is Every Angle. This is about how good is it in comparison to all of the other challenges that the business has to face. And how do you actually knit this Every Angle tooling introduction into the objectives of the other projects which are running and you're competing with? How can it help achieve those objectives? And that was a challenge for us. And we basically knitted this into the introduction of IBP and the processes that we had to improve. You'll have to go through the purchasing contracts and financial activities, which are obviously, for most of us, a little bit dull and boring to deal with, but we do get on with them. But it was important what we did, I think, with Every Angle to incentivize them to finish their activities on time. If we go back to the functional unit testing, if you're going to do this project, you're going to execute it in 4 weeks. What are the dependencies here? Functional unit testing, Every Angle has to hand that system over to you at the end of that week and make sure it's ready for you to train and test your people. If they don't hit that deadline, flights are going to be delayed for all of the people coming from all across Latin America into Brazil to do the training and the testing, and you incur a lot of costs. So you've really got to make sure that this schedule is highly reliable. And when we set up the contract with Every Angle, our sense was that they were going to be very reliable to do this, and we even disincentivized them inside the contract and made sure that they did this. And I was very, very pleased with the performance of the Every Angle guys. The spirit that they showed throughout the project to get things done and solve problems was exceptional. So structuring your team. Who should you have in there? What should they be doing? This is really important. Every person inside that team knows what they're supposed to do. What are their key responsibilities? We had a project manager installed, so we split out between the preparation phase, where I was responsible for the preparation phase. I've got the mandate inside the supply chain organization to drive the improvement of our tooling and make sure it's being used. Once we knew what we were going to do, we had it approved, we handed over to somebody who was an expert in executing projects. He's got the brief, he's got all the people assigned into the team, go and do the thing. Yeah, shouldn't be too difficult. So we had a project manager, Bart de Baai, from every angle. We had regional and site project managers who linked up to the user community. We had a project manager for the hosting organization, making sure that any problems with hosting are dealt with. And we also had somebody who was responsible for the landscape management of SAP, and he was making sure that the extractor was working and any problems in testing, etc., were ironed out. We also had a decision which was that we would have 2 key users testing all of our systems across the whole of the world. So we could take our learnings from system to system, implementation to implementation, and make sure we sped up and industrialized the user acceptance testing process. We sat down with every one of these people and we made sure they knew what they were responsible to do in this project. And we came to the end of it, I think we're almost at the end of it, with everyone feeling very satisfied, very happy, and enjoying the project itself. So, where are we with our project and how long did it take us? The execution of the project, we've scheduled for roughly 4 months to do 6 ERP systems across 4 regions, 80 users, and roughly 160 train days. So in our training, we agreed well up front, we'd have 1 day on the regular training of what is every angle, how to navigate around the new user interface. And then the 2nd day or 3rd day on the specialist area of order to cash, purchase to pay, supply chain reporting. And we had breakout sessions for these topics. So most users got roughly 2 days worth of training, and then they were in there, and then we went live. And then we closed the old system, okay? So we had 2 weeks after we gave training, and then we closed the old system. We ran parallel for 2 weeks just to make sure that what we were getting out of the new system was working properly. And that was a hard close. And again, that was a key decision because it made people focus themselves inside the training sessions. They said, well, hang on, I haven't got an open-ended contract here. It's closing down in 2 weeks. I better make sure I really listen to what the every angle guys are telling me, because I won't be able to get my reports in 2 weeks if I don't understand. So that was another key point that drove the behavior of our people to a certain way. So we've gone live, first of all, with our easiest ERP system. We learned a lot of lessons by doing that. And then we scaled up and we did 2 ERP systems at the same time, still inside Europe. So we finished Europe by doing ERP 1, 2, and 3. Then we've just finished Latin America and the US. They've gone live successfully, and we're about to close down those systems. And now we've just got Asia Pacific and China to finish off the project. What did it deliver? I don't intend to be smug, but it's exactly what we intended, because we spent so much time preparing for this. What is the outcome that we really wanted? Did everyone buy into it? Yes, let's go and execute on it. It's a much better tool from a user perspective. It's easier to use. We've got lower running costs because we changed our hosting provider. We've got a lot more rich functionality, and we answer our business questions faster than we ever did before. The user interface is so much better. I really can't tell you about that. You have to get into it and use it. The old version was, as I said, clunky. The angle management is a lot better. I'll show you that in a little demonstration that we've got. the easier login, we connected it to Active Directory so that you no longer need to have a new password and a new logon ID. You basically just connect in, you sign into Windows, you put in your Windows ID into every angle, and you're off and running. And in fact, even if you close down every angle, we've left the session running in the background for an hour. So if you log in again, click onto your internet browser link, it just opens up and you don't even have to put in your password again. So it's a real movement forward in the speed of accessing the information. The parallel working sessions is great. Having multiple tiles and windows, you can bounce between the high level information and the low level granularity. Dashboarding is really what we wanted it for. The dual instance memory we talked about, that was a big plus, and we've got a lot more interested users and management. So we'll finish this project, deal with the IT aspect of it, and then we'll move into, let's say, the change management and behavioral piece, which is getting the value out of this tool, and that's going to be the real value added for us. So the longer term is that we're dealing with this project actually in two parts. Part one is the IT aspect and the training to get people in, and part two is really getting the value out of it. And we might need to restructure and look at having a different kind of project to get that value out of it. Dare I provide a bit of advice for success? I can't say it enough times. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Rough out the scope of the modules you should use, schedule some training and key dependent activities for other projects and holidays with the key people across the regions. It's not rocket science. Make the project digestible and frame it in the context of your own business challenges. For us, like I said, IBP, process improvement, master data improvement. The CEO is behind the IBP project. It's a no-brainer, right? Have you got the buy-in and ownership from the key people? Do people really know their jobs? Who's the business process owner? Who's the technical owner? Who are the key users? Do you really know? Have a dialogue with those people. Make sure they really accept their responsibilities. Reinvigorate the users. Get every angle to your site. Do a demonstration. Give that to them to do. Explain the product. Explain other use cases. Bring other customers to your site. We spent quite a bit on the authorization and access concept. Don't underestimate this. You need to talk to quite a lot of people probably in your business to get approval for who should access, who should authorize access for certain people to get into this system, because there's quite a lot of very sensitive information that you can pull out of the every angle system, download into an Excel spreadsheet, and off you go. So you really need to control this. Don't underestimate that effort. Migrating angles. You'll have this question. If you're moving from your existing system into the new one, should you technically migrate all of these angles, or should you go and create them new and fresh? We had quite a dialogue with Jerome. Is Jerome in the building? There he is. Two camps of thought. I don't think either is wrong or right. We decided that we would not migrate. We decided the functionality was so different across the two systems that it was going to be more important that the users learned how to do the system through the medium of creating their new angles again. Yeah. So we decided, don't do the technical migration, because we might have had 6 or 7 angles that would have actually turned into one angle with multiple views and a dashboard. Trying to migrate that is going to take up the brains of the every angle guys, going to take up the cost from your wallet, and is not going to help you. So that was our perspective, at least. I made the decision, Fred, so I thought it was. Jerome, what did you think? Yeah, for our situation. Yeah, right. There's some great off-the-shelf templates that every angle offers in the new system. I suggest you use them, but I'd suggest look at them closely and tune them for your own business. Delete the ones that are not relevant for you, that don't make sense. There are a few duplicates there. They're really valuable, but make sure they're tuned before you go into training and say, hey, we've got templates here that you can use. Well, make sure you've actually looked through them first, that they make sense for you. Some of the plants that are really not relevant for you, take them out, and these sorts of things. We talked about the hard close on the system, and on training, I really like the pre-training preparation videos. I think before people go into the training sessions, giving them a link to actually prepare themselves and get an appetite and a bit of a learning before they sit in is really useful. And maybe for some of your own key processes, set up some of your key angles and then maybe create your own videos beforehand. That was one of our learnings that we thought we probably should have done with a bit of hindsight. It wasn't all plain sailing. We did have a few minor challenges. A little bit of functionality that we use heavily in the old version wasn't there, and we were a little bit surprised at that, but it is fixed in the next release and we're going to deal with that. We have a metric which is OTIF, on time in full percentage, and we compare that percentage across the regions. And when we ran the OTIF, we couldn't find the percentage bar graph. It's going to be there now. Right, Fred? Yeah. We found the download to Excel sometimes failed, and also that's fixed. And we've suggested via Jerome and directly to Hans that in this new world of information security and needing to have an audit trail all the way back to our systems, we'd really like every angle to develop tracking and tracing of what information was downloaded, accessed by who, when, and store that record. So if we find, let's say, a file of information that came from every angle in a competitor, and we could work it all the way back to say, okay, who did this? Where did it come from and when? Or could they have? And that's really important for us from an audit point of view. We'd like to see that in the next version of every angle. So we've seen some of this from Hans. And to eliminate any problems with network, etc., I took a little Skype video of a couple of dashboards that I'd like to show you. So here's what our every angle system looks like now. On the left-hand side, you can see our 6 different ERP systems, P24 down to P36. And you can see a list of all of the angles, including templates that we've got created. Some of the users have already started to create and publish some of their angles. We're only now, we've only just gone live with the US. So I think we'll see a build-up of the amount of published angles as time goes on. At the top here, when I talked about managing angles, it's so much easier. The old folders that we used to have and used to give access to a folder, right? In the future, that's gone. It's via labels, and searching for your angles is so much easier. Straight into the top bar. I think I've put in something on OTIF. Yeah. So as soon as you type it in, everything comes up on the screen. I search for dashboards, and I look for my favorites, which I've plonked with a star. And we can see 2 angles, 2 dashboards rather, and we'll look at those dashboards now over the next 5 minutes. Okay. The first dashboard is our nutritional lipids dashboard. So that's omega oils that you use for your eye, brain, and for pregnant nursing mothers, which are mostly encapsulated. So the dashboard is great. It gives us this ability to look at the overall number, which is on the top right-hand side. That's our on time in full per month. On the left-hand side, you can see the trend. Yeah. So are we getting better or are we getting worse? On the bottom left-hand side, we see, okay, how OTIF are we in the different plants? So who's the sinner? Who do I need to go and talk to deal with these problems? And we look in the bottom right-hand corner at the severity. Okay, how severe is our OTIF? Is it 1 day? Is it 2 days late? Is it early? Or is it more? Is it 3 or more? So I've drilled in here into the 1 day late orders. So this is a really nice feature, that keep the display filter and then go into the details. I could have defaulted that, but I just wanted to show that bit of functionality. It's quite neat, that, and it saves you a bit of time. So now we can see inside here, not only how severe was it, but who were the customers, what was the value of the order that was late, who should I chase up, which customers should I talk to, you know, should we have a dialogue of, I'm very sorry, what are we going to do about this? But it gives you that ability to go from that high level and bounce down into the really detail. And what you saw then was I actually had 2 tabs running. Yeah, I had the high level view and I had the detailed view. Now we're going to go into the European Straits organization. And we'll see that the story on OTIF is not so pretty. More red, very process sensitive on time in full reporting. We have to make sure that the CSA people really know what they're doing when they enter orders and change them. In the bottom part, this is a really neat function here. In the bottom part of the graph, you can zoom in to particular peaks. And here we're going to look at a customer. So how many on the left-hand side have we lated him? And what's the valuation of the orders we've gone in and supplied late? I'm not going to stop it because I messed it up last time. But now we've got a list of all of the orders that we ship to this customer in Finland. And you can see in the top left-hand corner, 20 days late. Okay, so here's the value of every angle right here. Why was it late? We're going to drive into this order, 20 days late. We've created a bit of functionality which is called the jump to blocks. If you can see here on the list, all changes in blocks. We have quite an interrupted order process where we take a sales order, then we've got a credit block, a billing block, a delivery block, a block for the batch. We've got lots of different blocks, and we know what these codes mean here, the 24, 27, 03. And we can see the total amount of time blocked on this order was 19 days. From when we created this sales order, when we promised to the customer he was going to get his goods, it was 19 days that it took us to get the blocks off the order and process that order to the customer. And then get it delivered, our proof of delivery message back into us to say when we actually delivered it. So you can drill down to a real level of granularity and not only figure out the what in our supply chain, but the why when you did not execute as you wanted to. And that is the value to us of the every angle upgrade.